Hello friend, so glad you're here tonight. Get comfortable, pull the covers up, and let the day loosen its grip. There's nowhere else you need to be. Before we begin, a small request. Most of the people listening tonight aren't subscribed. If this channel has ever helped you drift off, take a moment to subscribe and tap the like button on tonight's video. Both are free, they take 2 seconds, and they help this channel more than you think. And you can always change your mind later. And if you feel like it, leave a comment telling me where in the world you're listening from and what time it is where you are. I love reading them. In the Bible, a prophet named Elija kills 450 false prophets in a dramatic contest. This act infuriates Queen Jezebel, who vows to kill Elija within a day of hearing the news. Fearful for his life, Elija flees from Jezebel's wrath and begins a journey that will lead him to the holy place of Mount Horeb. Along the way, Elija encounters various challenges and hardships, pushing his faith and obedience to God to its limits. Finally, Elija reaches Mount Horeb, where he experiences a profound divine encounter that changes the course of his life and mission. Through this experience, Elija gains a deeper understanding of God's presence and begins to see faith in a new light. The journey to Mount Horeb becomes a pivotal moment in Elijah's life, shaping his future actions and teachings. As we delve deeper into this story, you will discover how Elijah's experiences on Mount Horeb transform not only his life, but also the faith of those who follow him. One more thing before we begin. I'm also a co-founder of a sleep app, built to be the most affordable one out there. No ads, ever. Just sounds and stories made to help you sleep. It may not be released yet as this video goes up, but if you're watching a little later, it might be out by now. Just search for it, it should be easy to find. It works on iPhone, Android, and everything in between. Downloading it is the best way to support this channel. His first stop is the town of Beersheba in Judah. Here, he leaves his servant behind and continues alone into the wilderness. Alone in the vast expanse of the desert, Elija presses on, driven by desperation and a deep longing for divine guidance. His goal? To reach the sacred ground of Mount Horeb, where Moses once received the 10 Commandments. It is here that Elija hopes to find solace and answers. Mount Horeb, also known as Mount Sinai, looms large in Elijah's mind as he traverses the barren landscape. Finally, after a grueling journey of 40 days and nights, Elija arrives at the base of Mount Horeb. As he gazes up at the towering mountain, Elija cannot help but wonder if this place, so rich in history and divine presence, will offer him the comfort and clarity he seeks. Mount Horeb is not just a destination, it's a sanctuary where Elija hopes to find refuge from the storm raging in his life. Little does he know, the journey up this mountain will profoundly shape his understanding of faith and obedience. As he begins the ascent, Elija enters a cave on the mountain, seeking shelter from the elements and perhaps even from his own thoughts. Here, in this quiet, secluded place, Elija will encounter something that will change the course of his life forever. But for now, he settles into the cave, eager to listen and learn from the divine presence that once spoke to Moses. Exhausted and overwhelmed, he prays for death under a broom tree, saying, "I have had enough, Lord. Take my life, for I am no better than my fathers." But before he can succumb to his despair, an angel of the Lord touches him and provides sustenance, saying, "Get up and eat." This divine intervention not only saves his life, but also gives him strength for the journey ahead. With renewed energy, he continues on his journey to Mount Horeb, where he will encounter God in a profound way. Throughout his arduous journey, he feels God's presence and care, setting the stage for the divine encounter that awaits him. The angel's touch and the command to eat serve as a reminder that even in his darkest hour, he is not alone. As he approaches Mount Horeb, the site of his epic encounter with the divine, he understands that his faith and obedience will be put to the test. It is on Mount Horeb where Elija encounters a powerful wind, an earthquake, and fire. But God is not in these dramatic displays. As the wind roars through the mountains, it tears at the landscape with immense force. However, amidst this chaos, Elijah understands that this is not a sign from God. The earthquake that follows shakes the very foundations of the mountain. But again, Elijah knows that these are not the means by which God communicates his will. When fire sweeps across the mountain, its intense heat and destructive power do not reveal God's presence either. After these dramatic events, Elijah finds himself in a cave. It is here that he experiences a profound encounter with God, one marked by simplicity and subtlety rather than spectacle. The contrast between the powerful displays of nature and the still, small voice of God underscores a profound truth about faith and obedience that Elijah will come to understand. Elijah's journey is one of discovery and intimacy with the divine, far removed from the noise and destruction outside his shelter. In this quiet moment, Elijah learns that God's voice is not found in the grandeur of natural forces, but rather in the subtle whisper that echoes within his heart. After the fire came a still, small voice. This voice is not like the others, not like the fierce wind tearing through the mountains. Nor is it like the earthquake that shook the land to its core, and not even like the fire that burned everything it touched. No, this voice is different, subtle and intimate. It whispers in the quiet moments, speaking to Elijah's heart directly. This subtle communication from God reveals a deeper truth, that his presence can be felt even in silence. It is this gentle whisper that transforms Elijah's understanding of faith and obedience. And by the end of his journey on Mount Horeb, Elijah finds himself reaffirmed in his mission. Instead, divine guidance can often be found in the quiet moments of introspection and surrender. This still small voice brought Elijah new instructions and reaffirmed his mission. The practical outcomes of this encounter were profound. Elijah was instructed to anoint Hazael as king over Aram and Jehu as king over Israel. Yet, this quiet voice holds the weight of a divine command. Go forth and stand upon the mount before the Lord. In this moment, Elijah is not only instructed to wait, but also to witness something extraordinary. Then fire sweeps across the mountain, a blaze so intense it consumes everything in its path. But again, God is not found in this fire. With renewed purpose, Elijah embarks on his final missions. He is commanded to anoint Elisha as his successor, marking a critical passing of the mantle in Israel's prophetic lineage. Exhausted and fearful, Elijah asks God to take his life under a broom tree. Yet, an angel of the Lord touched him and commanded, "Get up and eat." Strengthened by this divine provision, Elijah continued on his journey. Elijah's experience on Horeb taught him that God does not always reveal himself in dramatic displays of power, but rather in the quiet whisper that speaks to the heart. In the midst of a scorching desert, Elijah trudges through the wilderness. His journey is not merely a physical exile, but a spiritual one, a desperate flight from Queen Jezebel's wrath and his own fear. This desert exile will test every fibre of his faith and reshape his understanding of divine presence. The sustenance is a simple act of grace, but it carries with it an implicit message. Even in exile, God is present and active. This realization begins to shift Elijah's perception of his circumstances. With renewed strength, Elijah continues on his journey, now attuned to the subtle signs of divine presence in the wilderness. The barren landscape becomes a canvas for understanding God's handiwork. The stark contrast between his initial despair and this newfound awareness deepens his resolve to face whatever lies ahead at Horeb. As he nears the mountain, Elijah is not merely a prophet on a mission, but a man who has been profoundly shaped by his wilderness experiences. He now understands that faith and obedience are not just about grand displays of power, but also the quiet whispers in the stillness of the desert. And so, as he stands on the edge of his divine encounter, Elijah is ready, not with answers, but with a deeper understanding of the questions that truly matter. Before arriving at Horeb, Elijah was sustained by miraculous acts of divine provision. Ravens brought him food daily in the Kerith ravine. At Zarephath, a widow's jar of oil and her son's small portion of flour were miraculously multiplied to sustain Elijah for an extended period. These acts of divine provision not only sustained Elijah physically, but also revealed God's unwavering care and providence for his prophet. Through these experiences, Elijah learned to trust in God's sustaining power and understand the depth of his obedience. Through these dramatic experiences and divine encounters, Elijah gained a profound appreciation for God's unfailing care. This journey highlighted the significance of divine provision and its transformative impact on Elijah's life. Before Elijah's dramatic confrontation with the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, he had already faced severe persecution during the reign of King Ahab and Queen Jezebel. This was a time marked by periods of isolation and danger for Elijah. After defeating the 450 prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, Elijah's life was threatened by Jezebel. Ahab reported his actions to her, leading her to send a messenger with a death threat. This prompted Elijah to flee for his life. Elijah fled south from Beersheba in Judah towards Mount Horeb, also known as Mount Sinai. This journey was reminiscent of Moses' own pilgrimage, echoing the same sacred pathway. Upon reaching Mount Horeb, Elijah sought refuge in a cave on this holy mountain. It was here that he would experience a transformative divine encounter that would shape his understanding of faith and obedience. In the cave, an angel of the Lord provided Elijah with sustenance, instructing him to eat. This act of divine care marked the beginning of a profound journey for Elijah at Mount Horeb. In this still, small voice, God informed Elijah that he would leave 7,000 in Israel who had not bowed to Baal or kissed him. This revelation marked a transformative moment in Elijah's life and mission. In the Bible, caves are often associated with transformation and renewal. They serve as liminal spaces where individuals encounter divine presence and undergo spiritual change. After witnessing the dramatic events on Mount Carmel, Elijah may have felt disoriented and alone. The cave provided a place of solitude where he could reconnect with his faith and understand God's purpose for him. The cave encounter deepened Elijah's spiritual clarity, enabling him to perceive the intimate manner in which God often chooses to reveal himself. It signified that divine presence is not always manifested through grand displays, but often through quiet whispers within our hearts. As Elijah fled the wrath of Queen Jezebel, he embarked on a perilous journey to Mount Horeb. His path was fraught with uncertainty and danger, yet divine support remained steadfast. The angel provided Elijah with bread and water, nourishment crucial for his arduous journey ahead. This provision underscored God's constant presence and guidance throughout Elijah's trials. The angelic host, a manifestation of God's presence, ensured that Elijah was not alone in his trials. This divine support bolstered his faith and obedience as he continued onward to Mount Horeb. In the stillness of the mountain, Elijah found solace in the knowledge that he was not alone, that God's presence and support were ever present and unwavering. Elijah, one of Israel's most revered prophets, experienced this subtle revelation firsthand on Mount Horeb. This encounter is not an isolated incident. Throughout biblical history, God often chose subtle means to communicate his will. In 1 Samuel 3, a young Samuel hears God's call in the night. The Bible records that the word of the Lord was rare in those days, visions were not frequent. This infrequent communication underscores how precious and intimate these moments are. They require attentiveness and receptivity on the part of the listener. Similarly, in Ezekiel 40,002, a still small voice guides the prophet to understand divine instruction. These subtle revelations reinforce the significance of Elijah's experience on Mount Horeb. Through these examples, we see that God's still small voice is a consistent theme throughout Scripture. It highlights the importance of quiet intimacy and attentiveness in one's relationship with God. Understanding this still small voice enriches our appreciation for Elijah's profound encounter and the broader biblical context. Fleeing from Beersheba in Judah to Horeb, Elijah is exhausted and desperate for solitude. An angel of the Lord touches Elijah and instructs him to eat. After consuming the food, he lies down and sleeps. Next, an earthquake shakes the land. Yet again, God is not present for Elijah in these dramatic events. Finally, a fire passes by, but it does not bring the divine presence Elijah is seeking. The encounter on Horeb reminds us that spiritual clarity can often be found in moments of quiet reflection and contemplation. As we continue our journey through Elijah's story, we will see how this profound experience shapes the rest of his life and ministry. This revelation reshapes Elijah's faith and commitment to God's will, transforming his approach to his prophetic role. His post-Horeb mission reflects a renewed obedience and trust in divine guidance. Elijah's changed behavior is evident as he returns to his mission with a newfound sense of purpose and direction. The divine encounter at Horeb profoundly affects Elijah's subsequent acts of obedience, marking a pivotal moment in his journey as a prophet. By the end of this journey, Elijah understands that true faith and obedience often manifest in subtle ways, rather than through grand spectacles. As he travels through the desolate landscape, Elijah prays fervently to God. His prayers are a plea for guidance and protection during this desperate time. He is alone, facing immense danger. Elijah then encounters a widow in Zarephath, who is also facing dire circumstances. Her son is gravely ill, and she has barely enough flour and oil to make one last meal for them. Through these experiences, Elijah learns to rely on God's provision and guidance. His faith grows stronger as he witnesses God's care for him in the midst of his trials. Prepared by these encounters, Elijah is ready to face the challenges that await him on Mount Horeb. His spiritual journey has equipped him with unshakable trust in God's plan. The still, small voice of God will speak to Elijah in this sacred place, guiding him and revealing the path forward. But for now, he must wait patiently. The journey to Horeb has been a test of Elijah's faith and obedience, and it is here that his spiritual preparation will be fully realized. As we delve deeper into Elijah's story, we see that his dramatic experiences and divine encounters on Mount Horeb were not isolated events, but part of a larger narrative of faith, courage, and obedience. In the scorching wilderness of Israel, Elijah stumbles upon an oasis of divine mercy. An angel of the Lord touches him, providing sustenance. This is not just a meal, it's a lifeline, a sign that he has not been abandoned. This angel is more than just a provider of food. It's a messenger from God, a bridge between the divine and the mortal. Elijah is not the first to encounter such a being. In the Bible, angels appear again and again, each time delivering crucial messages or offering aid. These angelic encounters are not mere coincidences. They prepare Elijah for his life-changing experience on Mount Horeb. The angel's touch, the stillness of the desert, the divine provision. Each moment etches itself into Elijah's memory. These angelic encounters are not just moments of physical sustenance, they are spiritual nourishment, preparation for what is to come. As Elijah continues his journey towards Mount Horeb, he carries with him the knowledge that he is not alone. The wind, the earthquake, the fire, all dramatic displays of divine power, do not prepare him as deeply as this quiet encounter. In the stillness, he hears a voice, a still, small voice that speaks to him more profoundly than any storm. In the Bible's narrative, caves have long been regarded as places of refuge and divine encounter. They symbolize not only shelter from physical storms, but also sanctuary for the spirit during times of distress. Entering a cave in ancient times carried profound symbolic meaning. It signified entering into a state of communion with the divine. The solitude and stillness of this sanctuary were essential in preparing Elijah for his revelation. The cave offered more than physical shelter. It provided a setting conducive to spiritual introspection, where Elijah could quiet his fears and open himself fully to God's presence. The sanctuary of Horeb thus played a crucial role in Elijah's spiritual journey, offering him not just refuge but a place of divine encounter that forever changed his course. As we delve deeper into Elijah's story, this understanding will illuminate the significance of his experiences on Mount Carmel and beyond. In this sanctuary, Elijah found what he had been seeking, not just physical shelter, but a profound spiritual connection that would guide him through the trials and triumphs to come. And so, the story continues. This divine presence is different from the grand displays of power seen earlier. It reveals something deeper about God's nature and purpose. This experience on Mount Horeb reshapes Elijah's faith and deepens his commitment to God's purpose. In the end, Elijah emerges with a renewed sense of divine calling and a deeper understanding of God's presence in silence. In the Bible, the prophet Elijah encounters God in a way that seems almost unbelievable. It is this intimacy with God that shapes his subsequent ministry and extends its effectiveness, illustrating the pivotal role of intimate connection with God in shaping Elijah's faith and obedience. His flight takes him to Beersheba in Judah and then further into the wilderness until he reaches Mount Horeb. This encounter results in a prophetic anointing, a renewal of Elijah's purpose and mission. The significance of this anointing lies in its ability to empower Elijah with a renewed sense of purpose and divine guidance. Post-Horeb, Elijah's mission becomes even more focused and driven by this prophetic empowerment. Specific acts and messages Elijah delivers subsequently are marked by this newfound clarity and divine inspiration. At Horeb, God reassures Elijah that he will preserve 7,000 faithful Israelites who have not bowed to Baal or kissed his image. This divine promise fortifies Elijah's faith and solidifies the legacy of obedience he leaves behind. The prophet's experience on Mount Horeb is not confined to his own time, but resonates with subsequent generations. Biblical figures like Elisha and countless others are inspired by Elijah's courageous faith. In modern-day spirituality, Elijah serves as a model of unwavering faith and steadfast obedience. His journey to Mount Horeb is a testament to the power of divine encounters in shaping one's life and legacy. By the end of this chapter, you will understand how Elijah's dramatic experiences and divine encounters on Mount Horeb continue to shape generations of believers. His legacy as a model of faith and obedience remains as powerful today as it was in his time. Rest assured that Elijah's journey is not over. His story serves as a beacon of hope and inspiration for those who seek to live in faith and obedience. After his dramatic confrontation with the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, Elijah embarks on a perilous journey to escape Queen Jezebel's wrath. His destination, the sacred ground of Mount Horeb, also known as Mount Sinai. As he flees south, Elijah seeks refuge in a cave on this holy mountain, unaware that his life is about to be profoundly transformed by a divine encounter that will reshape his faith and understanding of obedience. In this passage, God speaks to Elijah in a gentle whisper after dramatic events involving wind, an earthquake, and fire. Another example is found in Isaiah 30:2-1, where God promises to speak to his people gently like a mother comforting her child. These passages reveal that God's whispers are profound encounters that challenge the notion of divine communication being solely about thunderous displays. As Elijah lies under a broom tree, an angel of the Lord touches him and provides sustenance. "Get up and eat," the angel says, offering him bread and water. This act of divine care sets the stage for what is to come. After this life-changing experience, Elijah is sent to anoint new kings in Israel and Judah, marking a shift in his mission. He no longer acts out of zeal or fear, but with a deep sense of obedience and divine guidance. By understanding how this transformative event shaped Elijah's perception and actions, we gain a deeper appreciation for the subtle yet powerful ways in which God works in our lives. Among the most dramatic divine encounters recorded in Scripture, one stands out: Elijah's experience on Mount Horeb. Elijah's experience at Horeb is one of many divine encounters in the Bible that have parallels with other prophets' experiences. For example, Moses' encounter at the burning bush, Exodus 3001:6, and Samuel's calling, 1 Samuel 3001.10, share striking similarities with Elijah's experience. At the burning bush, Moses hears God's voice in a strange and wondrous manner, Exodus 32. Similarly, Samuel experiences the still, small voice of God in a quiet and intimate setting, 1 Samuel 31:3. These parallels emphasize the profound and transformative nature of divine encounters. Solitude has a unique role in the Bible as a facilitator of divine encounters. The wilderness and desolate places are often where God's presence is most keenly felt. Moses encountered the burning bush in the desert, and it was there that he received his mission to free the Israelites. Jesus too spent 40 days alone in the wilderness, overcoming temptation and emerging with clarity on his mission. This still, small voice signifies a profound truth about God's presence in silence and intimacy. It is in the quiet moments, devoid of spectacular displays, that Elijah experiences a true connection with the divine. In the calm after the storm, amidst the gentle whispers, Elijah finds his mission reaffirmed and renewed. His isolation serves as a reminder that true connection with God is not found in grand spectacles, but in the quiet intimacy of spiritual communion. And so, it is in his solitude that Elijah experiences one of the Bible's most profound and intimate encounters with God. It is here that Elijah encounters God in a profound and intimate manner. First, an angel of the Lord touches him with food and commands, "Get up and eat." Following the earthquake, a fire appears before Elijah, yet God remains unseen in this display of power. His journey takes him to the wilderness of Beersheba and onward to Mount Horeb, a place steeped in divine significance. It is here that Elijah encounters an extraordinary stillness. As the story unfolds, it becomes clear that the true power lies not in dramatic displays, but in the quiet guidance of the still small voice. By the end of his journey, Elijah comes to understand that God's presence is not merely in grand gestures, but also in the subtle whispers that guide us through our most trying times. This event, recorded in the Bible, shapes his subsequent actions and understanding of faith. Upon descending from Mount Horeb, Elijah is instructed by God to anoint Elisha as his successor. The anointing of Elisha demonstrates Elijah's newfound understanding of obedience and God's will. This encounter underscores the lessons learned from his experience on Mount Horeb. The lessons learned on Mount Horeb guide Elijah in his prophetic acts and legacy. Consider Elijah, a prophet of fierce convictions and bold actions, whose dramatic encounters with God on Mount Horeb would profoundly shape his understanding of faith and obedience. His lineage in the tribe of Gad, renowned for its prophetic heritage, would undoubtedly have influenced his expectations and experiences during this pivotal moment in his spiritual journey. As we delve deeper into Elijah's story, you will understand the deep-rooted historical context that underpins his faith journey, thereby enhancing the significance of his encounter with God. Imagine the cave, now a sanctuary, where the echoes of divine guidance resonated anew. The stillness must have been profound, allowing Elijah to reflect on his journey and the lessons he had learned. In this place of historical significance, Elijah's experience took on a new dimension. It was not just about him, but about the continuity of God's work throughout generations. The cave on Mount Horeb, therefore, became more than just a hiding place. It was a symbolic intersection where past and present merged in divine guidance. As he approaches the mountain, Elijah experiences an earthquake so powerful that it shakes the very foundations of Horeb. Next, a fire passes by, its intensity unlike anything Elijah has ever witnessed. In the midst of his journey, Elijah fled to this solitary place following a dramatic confrontation with Queen Jezebel's prophets of Baal. His escape was not just physical, it was a desperate search for spiritual clarity. Elijah's solitude in the wilderness forced him to confront his own doubts and fears, creating an environment where he could truly hear God's voice. Other biblical figures also found deep spiritual connection through isolation. Moses, for example, spent 40 years in the wilderness before leading Israel to the Promised Land. In both Elijah's and Moses' stories, isolation served as a catalyst for spiritual growth and understanding. It removed them from distractions, allowing them to focus fully on their relationship with God. At Horeb, Elijah learned that God's work does not always require dramatic displays. His experience there highlighted the importance of quiet obedience and faithfulness. As you drift off tonight, consider the power of solitude in deepening your own spiritual connection with God. Like Elijah, perhaps a quiet moment alone could bring you closer to hearing that still small voice. Other prophets like Isaiah and Jeremiah also experienced divine encounters, but each was distinct in its nature and impact. For example, Isaiah saw a vision of God's throne room filled with angels singing, "Holy, holy, holy," which profoundly affected his mission as a prophet. Jeremiah, on the other hand, heard God's voice in the context of being called to be a prophet, even before he was born. This early encounter set the course for his life's work and ministry. This profound revelation will shape Elijah's ministry, guiding him through challenging times as he remains steadfast in his faith and obedience to God's quiet whispers. Before Elijah reaches the sanctuary of Mount Horeb, he encounters angelic messengers twice. In this desolate yet sacred space, Elijah experiences a profound encounter with the divine. The cave, symbolizing isolation and protection, becomes the backdrop for his spiritual awakening. The sanctuary of the cave offers not just physical refuge, but a spiritual space where Elijah can encounter God in a profoundly personal way, setting him on a new path of devotion and service. The cave's role in Elijah's journey underscores the importance of sanctuary spaces for spiritual growth and transformation, highlighting how isolation can lead to profound encounters with the divine. After Elijah's dramatic encounter with the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, a powerful wind blew across Israel, symbolizing the shifting landscape of divine revelations. As he fled from Queen Jezebel's wrath, his journey led him to the sacred Mount Horeb, also known as Mount Sinai, a place where God had once set apart the Israelites as his own chosen nation. This holy mountain would become the stage for another profound encounter that would shape Elijah's understanding of faith and obedience. In the context of Hebrew scripture, whispers signify an intimate and gentle communication from God. This encounter marked a pivotal moment in his spiritual journey, demonstrating his growth and deepening understanding of the subtleties of divine communication. As we delve further into this story, we will see how these whispers reshaped not only Elijah's life, but also the course of ancient Israelite history. As Elijah makes his way towards this sacred place, he encounters a stillness unlike any other. The silence is profound, almost tangible. It's as if the very air around him holds its breath in anticipation. This is no ordinary silence. It sets the stage for a divine encounter that will leave Elijah transformed. The solitude he experiences here is not an end in itself, but a preparation for something far greater. In fact, the Psalms tell us, "Be still and know that I am God," Psalm 46,020. Solitude and silence are not mere circumstances, they are paths to divine revelation. As Elijah sits alone in this sacred place, he becomes a part of an ancient prophetic tradition that values solitude and stillness. It is here that he will come to understand the true nature of his faith and obedience. And as the silence settles around him, he begins to hear something extraordinary, a still small voice that will guide him for the rest of his days. This divine encounter, marked by silence and stillness, forever changes Elijah. It is a profound reminder that sometimes the loudest messages come in the quietest forms. In the ancient text of 1 Kings, we encounter a prophet named Elija who flees from Queen Jezebel's wrath and finds himself alone in a cave on Mount Horeb. This is not just any mountain. It is known by another name, Mount Sinai, where God ministered his presence to Moses and began to set apart the Israelites as a nation for his own pleasure. As Elijah sleeps, an angel of the Lord touches him again and provides more food, saying, "Get up and eat, or the journey will be too much for you." This act underscores the importance of divine nourishment for Elijah's spiritual and physical strength. By understanding the role of angels as divine messengers and the subtlety of God's communication, Elijah gains a deeper insight into his purpose and the nature of his faith. Throughout his journey, Elijah faces the harsh realities of exile and isolation. But even in his darkest hour, God provides for Elijah through an angel of the Lord. The angel instructs Elijah to eat and drink to sustain himself for the 40-day journey ahead. This divine provision serves as a reminder of God's care and Elijah's dependence on divine guidance. In the grand scheme of Elijah's journey, this act of sustenance highlights the importance of faith and trust in God. As Elijah continues his journey to Mount Horeb, he learns that God's care is ever present, even in the most trying of times. He follows in the footsteps of great prophets like Moses and Samuel, each of whom had their own profound encounters with God. This divine encounter was marked by powerful displays of natural force, wind, fire, and earthquake. Similarly, Samuel's calling by God occurred in a time of great turmoil for the Israelites. Just as Moses and Samuel were called to serve God and guide his people, so too was Elijah. And just like them, Elijah's understanding of faith deepened through these divine encounters. Through these prophetic traditions, Elijah gained insight into the true nature of God's presence and how to remain obedient even in trying times. This historical context sheds light on why Elijah's experiences were so transformative. They connected him to a long lineage of prophetic service. The divine communion serves as a turning point in Elijah's prophetic journey, reshaping his mission and deepening his commitment to obedience. As the still small voice fades, Elijah emerges with renewed purpose and a clearer vision of God's will for his life. In this transformative moment, Elijah discovers that true communion with God lies not in the dramatic spectacles, but in the quiet intimacy of divine guidance. By placing Elijah's vision within this broader historical context, we gain a deeper appreciation for how it shaped his faith and obedience, offering insights that continue to resonate in the biblical narrative. Exhausted and overwhelmed by his circumstances, Elijah finds solace in a cave on the mountain. His desperation reaches a climax as he prays for death under a broom tree, expressing his desire to end his life. When Elijah fled from Queen Jezebel's wrath, he did not journey to just any mountain. He sought refuge on Mount Horeb, also known as Mount Sinai, the very place where Moses received the Ten Commandments and God established his covenant with Israel. This wasn't merely a hiding spot, it was a location steeped in spiritual significance. In the desolate Kerith ravine, water was scarce and food even scarcer. Yet a lone prophet named Elija found refuge here, sustained not by the meager provisions of the land, but by an unseen hand that guided him toward his divine encounter. This is a story of divine preparation through nature, where natural experiences shape the heart and mind for revelation. A brook named Cherith flowed nearby, offering life-giving water to Elija. But it was not just any stream. The Lord had commanded ravens to feed Elija there, demonstrating his care in even the smallest of details. In Zarephath, a widow and her son faced imminent starvation. Yet, God used Elija to perform a miraculous multiplication of oil and flour for them, ensuring their survival. Through these trials, Elija learned to trust in God's provision, setting the stage for the still, small voice that would guide him henceforth. The brook Cherith, the ravens, and the widow at Zarephath. These were not just episodes of Elijah's past, but pivotal moments in his divine preparation. In this incremental preparation, God readied Elija for the profound revelation to come, illustrating how natural experiences can shape the spirit for divine encounters. Elijah's journey to Mount Horeb was not a solitary one, but rather an encounter with angels that prepared him for his divine appointment. It was there that an angel of the Lord appeared to him, not with thunderous revelations or fiery displays, but with a simple command, "Get up and eat." The angel provided him with a cake baked over hot coals and a jug of water. This sustenance, though humble, was divine provision that fortified Elija for the journey ahead. Amid the dramatic episodes and divine encounters that defined Elijah's journey, his inner turmoil remained a hidden yet profound force shaping his spiritual growth. His fears about King Ahab's wrath and anxiety over his prophetic mission weighed heavily on him as he sought refuge in the solitude of Mount Horeb. Elijah's dramatic confrontations with Queen Jezebel and the prophets of Baal had left him battered and bruised, both physically and emotionally. As he traversed the desert terrain, Elijah grappled with a deep internal struggle. Would his courage and faith be enough to face the trials ahead? In the stillness of the cave, Elijah's fears echoed with a powerful intensity. It was in this quiet solitude that he learned the importance of trusting God's gentle guidance over the spectacle of dramatic revelations. This profound realization enabled Elijah to return with renewed purpose and a deeper understanding of obedience to God's will. As he ventured deeper into the wilderness, Elijah reached a point of utter exhaustion and desperation. Elijah consumed the food and rested, gaining the strength he needed for his journey. But Elijah's time in solitude was not merely about physical sustenance, it also offered him a profound spiritual renewal. In the quietude of the wilderness, Elijah experienced God's presence in a deeply personal and intimate way. The power of silence in this context cannot be overstated. It allowed Elijah to listen more attentively to God's subtle voice. Through this experience, he learned that true faith and obedience often emerge not from grand displays of power, but from quiet moments of introspection and connection. As Elijah reaches Horeb, exhausted and fearful, he encounters an angel of the Lord who provides him with sustenance. The angel commands him to eat, for the journey ahead will be long and arduous. The divine encounter at Horeb transforms Elijah's understanding of his mission and prophecy. He emerges from this experience with a renewed sense of purpose and a clearer vision for the future. This newfound clarity guides Elijah's prophetic vision post, Horeb. He anoints Elisha as his successor, passing on the mantle of prophecy to a new generation. Elijah's mission continues with a confrontation against King Ahaziah of Israel, challenging the king's false prophets and affirming God's ultimate authority. In the aftermath of his dramatic confrontations with King Ahab and the prophets of Baal, Elijah finds himself in a desperate flight for his life. Pursued by Queen Jezebel's wrathful messengers, he sets out on a perilous journey that will take him to the very heart of God's presence. The road before him is treacherous and uncertain, yet Elijah holds on to one steadfast belief: he is not alone in his ordeal. As he traverses the rugged terrain, Elijah relies solely on God for sustenance and protection. The same divine provision that has nourished him throughout his travels continues to support him, demonstrating an enduring faith in the face of adversity. This is not a simple act of obedience, but a profound declaration of trust in the midst of turmoil. As he stands on the precipice of his faith, Elijah finds solace in the knowledge that God is with him, guiding him through every trial and tribulation. This enduring faith will be his compass as he continues to navigate the treacherous waters of prophecy, obedience, and divine mission. In the quiet moments that follow, Elijah comes to understand that true obedience is not defined by external displays of power, but rather in the stillness of God's voice within him. This revelation will guide his actions and decisions for the rest of his life, shaping a legacy of unwavering faith and steadfast trust in the divine. In the aftermath of his miraculous victory over the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, Elijah found himself in a state of profound despair and desperation. Queen Jezebel, furious with his triumph, had vowed to take his life by any means necessary. Fearing for his safety, Elijah fled from Beersheba in Judah to Horeb, also known as Mount Sinai, a holy place where God had once ministered his presence to Moses. An angel of the Lord appeared to him and provided sustenance, saying, "Get up and eat, for the journey is too great for you." This divine provision was a prelude to Elijah's transformative encounter with God. In his spiritual solace and renewal, Elijah would soon experience a profound and intimate encounter with the divine presence that would reshape his understanding of faith and obedience. Elijah ate and drank and then fell asleep. The next day, the Lord spoke to him again, instructing him to stand on the mountain before him. In the end, it is not the wind, earthquake, or fire that carries the divine message, but a gentle whisper that speaks volumes about God's nature and desire for closeness with his people. This encounter enriches Elijah's faith journey by revealing the power of quiet intimacy in spiritual revelation. Buried within the pages of the Bible lies an astonishing tale: one prophet, two dramatic encounters, and a divine revelation that would forever alter his path. And with this, Elijah's journey from fear to trust is complete. In ancient times, caves were considered sacred spaces, often seen as thresholds between the physical world and the spiritual realm. They were places of transformation and revelation, where one might encounter divinity or undergo profound changes. The cave on Mount Horeb serves as more than just physical shelter. It becomes a spiritual sanctuary where Elijah's faith is renewed and his purpose reaffirmed. As he emerges from the cave, Elijah carries with him a deeper understanding of God's will and a profound sense of his own role in the world. This divine encounter at Horeb marks a pivotal moment in Elijah's journey, setting him on a new path guided by a quiet yet powerful voice. In this desolate landscape, Elijah experienced a series of dramatic events: a powerful wind, an earthquake, and fire from heaven. This encounter placed his dramatic experiences in a broader biblical context, showing that divine revelations can come in subtle and intimate ways. The divine encounter on Mount Horeb profoundly changed Elijah's life and mission, highlighting the transformative power of such encounters in Scripture. Following his divine encounter at Horeb, Elijah returns to a life of service and prophecy, but with a newfound perspective. His messages are no longer driven by sheer zeal or dramatic displays, but by a deeper sense of purpose and humility. Elijah's new mission is marked by a quieter, more introspective tone. He continues to challenge false idols and corrupt leaders, but with an emphasis on spiritual guidance and redemption rather than overt confrontations. The transformation is evident in his teachings that stress the importance of faithfulness to God and obedience to his commands, echoing the subtle guidance he received at Horeb. This post-Horeb renewal shapes the rest of Elijah's life and legacy, leaving an enduring imprint on the spiritual landscape. There, he seeks refuge in a cave, waiting for the Lord to speak to him. After receiving a dire message from Jezebel, Elijah leaves his servant in Beersheba and continues alone into the wilderness. His destination? The sacred Mount of Horeb, also known as Mount Sinai, the very place where Moses received the Ten Commandments. The journey to Horeb is not a mere physical trek for Elijah, it is a spiritual odyssey that will challenge and transform his understanding of faith and obedience. This mount holds significance as the place where God first began to set apart the Israelites as a nation. Upon reaching Horeb, Elijah encounters not the grand displays of power he experienced on Mount Carmel, but a profound stillness. This silence is not inactivity, but rather God's invitation for Elijah to listen more deeply. The Hebrew term for still small voice translates more accurately to the sound of sheer silence. It signifies a deeper truth about God's presence and his communication with humans. Through this encounter, Elijah learns that God's work need not always be accompanied by dramatic revelations or manifestations. Instead, it often resides in the subtle and intimate whispers that challenge our preconceived notions of faith and obedience. As Elijah listens to the still, small voice, he is informed that despite his victories and the apparent triumph of God over Baal's prophets, there remain thousands in Israel who have not bowed to Baal or kissed him. This revelation transforms Elijah's understanding of his role as a prophet. The still, small voice at Horeb is not merely an intimate communication, but also a profound and significant encounter that aligns Elijah with a broader prophetic tradition. It underscores the importance of listening to God's quiet whispers as much as his grand displays. As Elijah prays for death under the broom tree, an angel of the Lord provides him with a cake baked over hot coals and a jar of water. The sustenance is a stark contrast to his despairing plea. In his sleep, Elijah hears God's soft whisper, "Why are you here, Elijah?" The question pierces through his exhaustion and fear, challenging him to confront the true state of his heart. Elijah's internal dialogue wrestles with the divine inquiry. He thinks back to his triumph on Mount Carmel and his subsequent flight from Jezebel. His heart is torn between pride over his victories and fear of failure. Renewed and reaffirmed by God's purpose for his life, Elijah sets out on the next leg of his journey, guided by the still small voice. The cave in Horeb becomes a symbol of his internal transformation and the power of divine encounter in silence. As Elijah continues his journey, he carries with him a newfound understanding that divine presence and guidance are not always found in the thunderous displays, but often in the still small voice. As Elijah leaves the cave, he is renewed in his faith, and ready to continue his prophetic mission with a deeper understanding of God's guidance and sustenance. In the morning, God speaks to Elijah, asking why he has come there and instructing him to stand on the mountain. This divine light that Elijah experiences is not just a physical manifestation, but a symbol of God's intimate and transformative presence. Elijah's dramatic experiences on Mount Carmel left him running for his life, fleeing the wrath of Queen Jezebel. Before the day was over, he would find solitude in a cave on Mount Horeb, and there, everything changed. Angelic encounters are a recurring theme in the Bible, each serving a distinct purpose. In Genesis 16:7-14, an angel appears to Hagar and instructs her to return to Sarah. Similarly, in Judges 2001:5, an angel speaks to Gideon and reassures him of his calling. Angelic visitations often come at critical junctures in one's journey, providing guidance and strength when it is most needed. Elijah's encounter with the angel on Mount Horeb was no different. It came at a pivotal moment in his life, following his triumph over the prophets of Baal and his subsequent fear of Queen Jezebel. This divine visitation not only sustained Elijah physically, but also spiritually, reminding him of God's constant presence and care. It is in these quiet moments of divine encounter that faith can be fortified and renewed. After receiving this sustenance and guidance from the angel, Elijah was ready to continue his journey of faith, strengthened by the knowledge that he was not alone in his trials. And so, Elijah's journey took him from the cliff edge of despair to a place of renewed strength and purpose. Elijah shows unwavering loyalty to God's will, confronting King Ahab and Queen Jezebel with a message of divine judgment. As he goes on to perform remarkable acts, guided by his renewed understanding of God's purposes. This prophet, known for his zeal and fearlessness in challenging the false prophets of Baal, finds himself at a pivotal moment after a triumphant but dangerous confrontation. After this divine provision, Elijah prays for death under a broom tree, expressing his exhaustion and despair. In the scorching wilderness of Sinai, a prophet sought refuge in a cave after his dramatic contest with false idols. This was no ordinary hideaway. It was a place that had witnessed divine revelations and transformative encounters. It was a sanctuary for divine communication. As Elijah ventured deeper into the cave, he must have wondered what divine revelations awaited him. Would there be a manifestation as dramatic as the one Moses experienced? Or would God speak in a gentler voice? The cave on Mount Horeb, this sanctuary for divine communication, had once again proven its significance as a place where God's presence and purpose could be deeply felt. This solitude and seclusion were not just means to an end, they were essential elements in Elijah's spiritual journey. As we continue to explore Elijah's experiences, we see how these encounters shaped his mission and reshaped his understanding of God's guidance. As he arrived at Horeb, Elijah encountered a divine demonstration of God's power. This quiet whisper carried profound spiritual significance. Fire in the Bible often represents God's presence and purification. But at Horeb, the absence of dramatic displays taught Elijah that God's voice need not be loud to be powerful. As you drift off to sleep tonight, consider the symbolic significance of fire and the transformative power of quiet spiritual encounters. Elijah's journey from fear to obedience begins with a dramatic escape. After confronting the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel and witnessing God's fire consume his sacrifice, Elijah is marked for death by Queen Jezebel. Fearing for his life, Elijah flees from Beersheba in Judah and journeys further into the desert. He travels alone, seeking refuge and guidance from God. As he traverses the harsh wilderness, Elijah encounters a cave on Mount Horeb, also known as Mount Sinai. He takes shelter there, hoping to find safety and divine guidance. The journey to this sacred place is significant, echoing Moses' own pilgrimage centuries before. Elijah knows that God has ministered his presence here in the past and hopes for a similar encounter. Exhausted and despondent, Elijah prays under a broom tree near his cave. He expresses his desire to die, feeling overwhelmed by the persecution he faces. As he continues on his journey, Elijah experiences a profound encounter with God. A great wind tears through the mountains, but God is not in it. An earthquake shakes the land, yet God is not found there either. In the heart of the ancient Israelite wilderness, a man named Elijah experiences something extraordinary after confronting false prophets on Mount Carmel. The stillness he encounters is not merely peaceful, it holds a power that reshapes his faith and understanding of obedience. As you journey through this narrative, you will hear a voice unlike any other, a divine whisper that challenges the limits of human perception. Tonight, unveil how Elijah's dramatic experiences on Mount Horeb shape his understanding of faith and obedience in ways that resonate across biblical narratives. His journey took him through Beersheba and the wilderness until he reached a cave on the sacred mountain of Horeb. At this holy site, Elijah sought refuge and solace from the storm that threatened his life. The still, small voice instructed Elijah to anoint Elisha as his successor, signifying a shift in his prophetic calling. There he found a cave and sought shelter in its depths. Exhausted and fearful, Elijah prayed for death under a broom tree. But God had other plans. An angel of the Lord touched him and brought food and water, instructing him to eat and drink. Strengthened, Elijah embarked on a 40-day journey into the wilderness, guided by God. This solitude mirrored that of Jesus in the wilderness, where he fasted for 40 days and nights, preparing for his ministry. Through solitude and divine encounters on Mount Horeb, Elijah's spiritual growth deepened, highlighting the power of solitude in fostering a deeper connection with God. Through Elijah's experiences, we learn that enduring faith is not about grand gestures, but about steadfast trust in God, even amidst the quietest of moments. Following this dramatic event, Elijah found himself fleeing from Queen Jezebel, who had vowed to kill him for his defiance. This realization impacted Elijah deeply, showing him that he was part of a long history of prophets who had served God faithfully. The experience at Horeb renewed and reaffirmed Elijah's purpose, transforming him from a lone figure into a key part of God's ongoing story. The journey was arduous, spanning 40 days and nights. Exhausted and alone, Elijah sought refuge in a cave on the mountain. Here, he would experience something profound, a deep sense of solitude that would enhance his ability to receive and understand divine communication. In this isolation, Elijah was forced to confront his own fears and doubts. Solitude can be terrifying, but it also offers an opportunity for introspection and spiritual growth. For Elijah, this period of isolation was transformative. God then spoke to Elijah in a still, small voice. This quiet communication challenged Elijah's zeal and violence and reaffirmed God's purpose for his prophet. This newfound clarity would guide Elijah through future trials and affirm his faith in God's quiet guidance. This experience highlights the transformative power of divine encounters in shaping one's spiritual journey. Moreover, it underscores that God's presence can be found not just in dramatic events, but also in the stillness and quiet of our inner selves. As he takes refuge in a cave on this holy mountain, Elijah is consumed by fear and desperation. The weight of his persecution has led him to believe that he is alone in his faith, that God's power might not be enough to save him. In the quiet of this mountain cave, Elijah's fear begins to dissipate as he learns that even in the darkest moments, God is still with him. The stillness of Horeb allows Elijah to hear what he couldn't in the whirlwinds and earthquakes of his past experiences. With newfound resolve, Elijah emerges from his cave, ready to face the challenges ahead. His transformation at Horeb will shape the rest of his journey and the impact he has on Israel's history. Elijah's journey to this hallowed ground echoes Moses' own pilgrimage. Both prophets sought divine guidance in a moment of crisis, and both found solace in the same mountain's embrace. In the cave, Elijah learns that true faith is not about grand spectacles, but about listening to and following this still, small voice. And with this newfound understanding, he emerges from the cave, ready to face whatever trials lie ahead, not with awe and fear, but with quiet resolve. The next morning, an angel of the Lord returns, waking Elijah and repeating the command, "Get up and eat, or the journey will be too much for you." This time, Elijah obeys, finding a cake baked on hot stones and a jug of water. After eating and drinking, he sets out on his journey, strengthened both physically and spiritually by this divine encounter. The angelic host's purpose is clear: to sustain Elijah for the arduous journey ahead. The message, "The journey is too great for you," signifies that God understands Elijah's weakness and provides for him accordingly. This act of divine care and support reassures Elijah that he is not alone in his trials. Elijah's obedience to the angel's command shows a deepening trust in God's guidance. He recognizes that without this sustenance, he would not be able to continue his mission. The angel's intervention underscores that God is actively involved in Elijah's life, offering both physical and spiritual nourishment when it is most needed. Now, imagine Elijah alone in that cave, despairing and exhausted, only to receive a divine visitation that would change the course of his life forever. What message does the angelic host convey? How does it transform Elijah's faith? Stay tuned as we delve deeper into this extraordinary story. The prophet finds temporary refuge beneath a broom tree, expressing his weariness and desire for death. A miraculous meal appears before him, cakes baked on hot stones and a jug of water. Elijah partakes in this divine provision, finding renewed strength to continue his journey to Mount Horeb. This profound act of God's care and support for Elijah underscores the deeper lessons about obedience and divine guidance that he will soon come to understand. This model of enduring faith and humble obedience has resonated throughout the ages. Even today, believers turn to Elijah's story for guidance in their own journeys of faith. His experience at Horeb reminds us that our relationship with the divine is not defined by spectacle, but by moments of quiet connection and deep understanding. In this spirit, we can find solace in the knowledge that even when facing great challenges, God's presence is always near, guiding us with a still, small voice. And so, as you drift off to sleep tonight, consider the enduring faith of Elijah and how his experience at Horeb sets an example for all believers seeking to walk in humble obedience. Seeking refuge in a cave, Elijah believed that God would pass by and reveal his presence in powerful displays of wind, fire, or earthquakes. But God chose a different path for Elijah's spiritual renewal. Wind in the Bible often symbolizes the Holy Spirit, or God's breath. Fire is a symbol of purification and divine presence, seen in the burning bush and Elijah's sacrifice. In this stillness, Elijah finds a deeper meaning and purpose in his mission. From Beersheba, Elijah journeyed alone into the wilderness, eventually finding himself at Mount Horeb. Here, he witnessed a powerful wind tearing through the mountains. Finally, a fire appeared before Elijah. Still, the voice of God was absent from all these dramatic manifestations. Interestingly, the phrase, "Be still and know that I am God's" from Psalm 46,000 many as, echoes this concept of divine stillness. The connection between the still small voice and "be still" and "know that I am God" underscores a biblical precedent for Elijah's encounter. By the end of tonight, you will understand how these parallels deepen our understanding of Elijah's transformation through his divine encounters.